Hi, I'm Johnetta Roberts, Neighborhood Initiatives Manager for the Louisville Independent Business Alliance. Welcome to the West Louisville Trailblazers video series. The goal of this video series is to introduce you to trailblazing West Louisville entrepreneurs and to introduce you to resources that can benefit your company as you start and grow. Here at the Louisville Independent Business Alliance, we feel it is important to focus on West Louisville and the amazing entrepreneurs that have been in business for many years and are poised to grow. And we want to also inspire new businesses to start and grow in the area so that West Louisville can continue to grow and thrive.
Like she said, my name is Carlin Groves. I'm with St. George's Scholar Institute. So we're a local nonprofit here in Louisville, Kentucky, based out of the West End. And excuse me, I'm a little bit congested right now, so bear with me. But we got connected with LIBA through the Urban Arts Institute, which is one of our programs, and it's basically a business incubator for the arts. And so we offer art programs with the hope and the intentions that they can become their own entrepreneur, their own business owner. So one of our big aspects of that is our DJ program. And we've been blessed to work with Jennifer and Exacia and the rest of LIBA to host events and organizational events inside of West Louisville and around the city. And we're looking to grow that more and more. So we offer it to our middle school students and our high school students through all of JCPS. I'm lucky enough to have a group here with me, also a part of our college career readiness program. So shout out to all the bright young people here tonight. Give them a hand. So we're looking to grow, always looking to grow the program. We're looking for bright young people that are interested in wanting to be their own boss, wanting to learn more about the arts, DJing, and it's just fitting that we were able to be spotlighted here today with WLOU being recognized for being a local Black radio station, and it's kind of fitting with what we're trying to do, and we respect them and everything they have going on. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you all for having us. And again, check us out, St. George's Scholar Institute and the Urban Arts Institute.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Carolyn.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our West Louisville Trailblazer event series. We're so happy to honor WLOU. And so as they may have mentioned before, the way that we select our honorees, typically our LIBA staff chooses different trailblazers in the community, but this year we put it out to our LIBA West work group. And so after a few days of having them send in some recommendations, we went out and we put those recommendations to a little quiz, and people voted on who they thought would be the trailblazers that would best serve us for this year. And WLOU came out as one of the top 3. So we've honored Mr. Milton Haskins Jr., we've honored Christopher Tuex, and now we're here with WLOU. And the thing that's very unique about WLOU's history is that it was founded by Sherryll Summers' father, and it is now co-owned by Mr. David Smith. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves before we go into the Q&A.
My name is Sherryll S. Summers. I'm currently the owner and CEO of S. Summers & Summers, LLC, which is it's a powerful mindset and growth development academy. And inside that academy is where my book would be released about my father, which is The Making of a Difference Maker. Just a small correction. WLOU was not founded by William E. Summers III, but we'll get to that after a while.
I'm David Smith. I'm the co-owner of a company called Aircom Media, which is the company that presently owns WLOU and WLLV radio, which is a sister station that has its own legendary status. It is Louisville's oldest gospel radio station as well. But Sherryll and I are friends, and we'll get into some of that. But my father actually worked for her father at WLOU. So there's a lot of cool connections in history for the radio station, and some of the other folks that are currently working at WLOU that I work together. I spent a good bit of my career on the radio here in Louisville and other cities, along with Mark Gunn, who's sitting here, who's our program director at WLOU. So broadcasting background, and yes, I'm currently one of the, I have a business partner. He's retired. He's probably home napping right now. But I always tell people that I'm a steward of the station. The community really owns the station, and it's our job to serve the community, and that's what we continue to try to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say, in doing some research about WLOU, one of the things that I found was that your family has a rule that when people are speaking on behalf of your father and about his history and legacy, that one of you all have to be present. And
Yes.
so we were very adamant about making sure that we had someone. And so I reached out to Steve, and I was like, I saw this video where she was very adamant about this, and so I'm happy that you were able to give us the time. And so,
we happened to have, we were meeting that morning.
Really?
We just, coincidental, we had a meeting that morning where this came up, so it all worked out.
fate,
Yeah.
honestly. And this is a different type of format from our previous videos where we're going to have you speak about the past and the history of the station, and then we're going to have you speak about
Sure.
the future. Okay, so we'll get started. And so I would like to start with just give us the background. What was your father's vision, and what did he want to start out with whenever he went on this endeavor to get into the radio industry?
I'm going to go back just a little bit because I want to make sure that we understand the complete foundation. WLOU started in 1948, was a country western radio station. It took a couple of years. And it went into 1951 when Ronzaville that actually made it a black formatted radio station. Actually, black formatted means black entertainment, black DJs, and black news. My father actually applied for WLOU radio station when it was country western and was denied. They said that Summers didn't have a voice that was suitable for radio at that time. After the format in 1951, and Ronzaville took it over, my father also called games at the time. He was a sports announcer. WLOU needed him to do a sports announcement for the Central game. That was a big Thanksgiving game. It was in 1952 when he went to LOU to call this game. That was his first introduction to radio. And then after that, it was like history. They kept Summers on, and Summers started in radio then. That was his entering into the LOU. And from that point, Summers worked 22 years, and he worked under many general managers and other managers before he actually bought the radio station. Mm-hmm. He was first promoted to the management of the station in 1967. He was the first manager, noted to be one of the first managers in the United States, black manager to manage a radio station. And then it was the big year, 1971, and that's when it became Summers Broadcasting. But my father's vision was to make the station. He felt the radio was more than entertainment. He thought it was for education. He thought it was for information. And he thought it was for togetherness. That was a big deal for him to bring the community together. One thing that I know that he said, and I mentioned a lot of this in the book, but this is something that he said when he bought radio station WLOU. He said that he went into his office and he got on his knees and said, God, what have I done? He said he was $850,000 in debt. And what am I to do now? And he said that the response was, you want to open doors for people? There's no bigger way than to open doors than for you to have this radio station. So that's what he did. He was known for opening a many a door, giving a many a people their first start in radio, togetherness and community. And LOU back then was a family station. Everyone back then felt like they was a part of WLOU. And that was his biggest vision, is togetherness part of it. They did a big Summerfest, 10 years of Summerfest. That was huge in our community. People look forward to just gathering together with LOU. So it was a lot of his foundation was just to bring the community together and let's bring everybody as one.
Oh, thank you so much. And I will say I thought I did my due diligence with doing some research, and most of what you said you cannot find online. So when you were speaking about a book, What is this? Give us just a few sentences about what that is.
The book is The Making of a Difference Maker. And what I wanted to do was highlight that information that so many people just don't know. And I don't like to tell a lot about the book. I've done this once. But for the youth out there, I have a message for you. You hear this conversation about Summers and this great man who owned this radio station, but he had very, very, very humble beginnings. Summers didn't have a mother nor a father who claimed him at that time. His mother actually left him at a very young age because he had tuberculosis. He was quarantined, and his mother left him in quarantine, which he never saw again till later on in the years. So I just want them to know that you hear us talking about Summers, and he left a trailway and of academics or community involvement, but his beginnings didn't start that way. But his perseverance, he was a man that stood by what he believed. He persevered in everything that he did. So that message to the youth is your beginnings is not always the way it ends. So take that message from Summer's start, and that's what the book is going to be about. The humble beginnings. Many people don't know. I've told this story once. This is the second time I'm telling it. I'm not telling it again until the book comes out. So this is it. And it's called The Silent Years. Now, I gave y'all the fast forward version of The Silent Years. The Silent Years of Summers is amazing, and that is what the book is about, because his history needed to be in writing. I just couldn't leave this earth and not have this history in writing for us to know about.
Absolutely. That's one of the big reasons why we do this Trailblazers Award, because we want people to be able to get their accolades while they're still here, that their families are here, so that they can tell the story firsthand like you are. And also, I'm just grateful that you were able to show that part that you just shared with us, because it is a manifestation of what the Trailblazer Award is. So thank you for the background. And so now we'll transition to you, David. And so you alluded to this earlier, that you all had a connection. So while many of us may know that you are one of the co-owners of WLOU and Aircom Media at present, what is that background connection that you have to the station and to Ms. Summers?
So the short version, because I'll do a short version of mine too, she mentioned Mr. Summers getting down on his knees and praying, "What have I done?" I've had those moments, actually. We took over the station 4 years ago, and then COVID-19 hit, right? And so we're trying to rebuild the station and everything. So, I believe in God. I don't push my beliefs on everybody, but I do. And so we trusted the Lord to build what we were doing, and we were able to rebuild the station. And if I can say that, I think we've done a fairly good job of modernizing the station. But the history I have, to kind of back up a little bit, is my father was an engineer. Radio stations, TV stations have to have a person come in and work on equipment, stuff like that, transmitters. My dad that's what he did. So Mr. Summers my dad was a consultant, so he did a lot of stations. WLOU was one of them. And so it's kind of a funny story, because a lot of people don't know, we have an FM frequency now, 104.7 FM, but originally WLOU was AM only. And originally it was only on during the daytime. So about this time at night, you heard static, right? So my father convinced Mr. Summers to invest the money to build an antenna system so the AM could be on at night. However, and I don't know if you talk about this in the book, Mr. Summers owned an FM station too, but they weren't associated, right? And that station is 103.1. It was WSTM. It was a jazz station. And my dad and I would go over there when I was a kid. I'm like a little kid walking around LOU. I'm like, I'm 8-9 years old at this time, right? Going to work with my dad in the summer. And I remember it was in the Oxmoor Mall, and it had a big Summers Broadcasting sign on it. And I walk in, I'm like, "Dad, why isn't WLOU on the FM?" And so he's like, "It's a long story." So I'm sitting in the office with her dad and my father, and my dad's trying to convince Mr. Summers to put WLOU on FM. He's like, "Nope, not doing it." He sold it, is what he did, which was the smart move, by the way. And it became WRKA in a station later. But I'm sure at that time, Mr. Summers probably didn't care. He then sold the station to a guy named John H. Johnson, which owned Ebony Jet magazine, which is now owned by Junior Bridgman here from Louisville as well. But so my connection was, I would go to work with my dad, and I would see all these bigger than life DJs, Bill Price, Super Neil O'Reilly, Tony Fields, who's a dear friend of me, and Mark both, who is my mentor, got me my start in radio, and Mr. Summers. And he was dressed perfectly, everything in perfect, the cigar. Every Christmas he'd give me a silver dollar. I looked at this guy like he was the biggest person I've ever seen in my life. Little did I know that flash forward 40 plus years, whatever, if somebody had told me back then, you're going to be the future owner of WLOU, I would have laughed, and I said, that's not possible. As it turned out, the way God does things, your plan doesn't always connect until you get there. And I ended up working in black radio here in Louisville at what's now Magic 101, but originally was called J101.7. I started there. I never worked at LOU. Ended up working in San Francisco and Cincinnati and Milwaukee and Los Angeles, San Francisco, all these big black radio stations. So as it turns out, I become a radio personality on black radio. Me. With Mark, with Tony Fields. Come home, long story short, we also have a small television station here in Louisville, Channel 24, WMYO. If you have an antenna, it's Channel 24. If you have cable, it's Channel 138. Some people in the room are going, what's cable? Not many people have it anymore. And then we have a Hispanic station here in Louisville, and we have a Hispanic station in Lexington. We're probably the most diverse radio broadcast company in Louisville. So I have this backstory with Mr. Summers and her family, and then my own career. When I bought LOU, Mark Gunn came in, who worked in all those cities that I just mentioned. So I realized later on, I was being prepared to own WLOU. It was part of my destiny. And what I would say to anybody especially the youth in the audience, I'm 54. I know I look older, but I'm 54. There is a destiny for you. I would propose to you that God sets those destinies. You're not living out a movie. You choose your own paths and you take your own exits sometimes. But you're going to get to that if you continue to, as Sherryll said, press on towards the mark, regardless of your beginning. I'm not from a rich beginning either. My father was not a rich man. Owning radio stations doesn't make you rich, trust me. But stay focused on that. There is a destiny that is planned for your life, and it can come together, and I encourage you to do that. So,
thank you.
I know that was a long path to that. But.
Well, no, it's awesome because I have questions in my head
Sure.
and you just tick them off. But one thing that sounds like that's in common with both of the stories that you all told with your father's backstory and then yours is being perseverant, persevering beyond the obstacles and having to go through several doors before you get to your destiny. And so I think that that's really remarkable, and that shows the true spirit of being a trailblazer. And so the last question that I have for you is, you have been very outspoken about the fact that you want to make sure that the station kind of carries forward the legacy that Dr. Summers, instilled in,
Yes.
The livelihood of the station. So what are some of the efforts that you have made and you want to, make known that you continue to do to make WLOU the soul of Louisville?
It's a great question. When I first got the station, when it was brought to me, to be quite honest with you, it wasn't in great shape, to be very blunt. And that's not a blame to anybody who was running at the time. It was an outside company that had it. I honestly wasn't sure I wanted to own it because I thought, well, am I the best person for this? Because maybe somebody in the community, maybe Sherryll, maybe the Summers family, maybe somebody else, and at that time, nobody was coming forward because as media goes on, it's a changing platform always. We're modernizing the station and to do the things we do, but as you know, we all know everybody uses Spotify and all these streaming services, although you can stream WLOU, but on demand is the way to go. And so having a 24-hour source is not as much as popular as it once was. But to answer your question, it was I had to sit down and ask myself that. Well, the Louisville Defender called me about 2 days after we bought the station, and the question was, why should you own it?
Right.
And I said, it's a great question. I can show you my resume that I have a background in black radio for nearly 30 years, so I'm not a novice to this. But as I said earlier, I told them, and that was the headline in the paper, I'm just a steward, a servant of what I'm doing. Eventually, the station, most people don't realize radio and television stations are owned by individuals, but they're not really. They're owned by the community. We're stewards of them. and we serve the community. So to answer your direct question, we've had a lot of things happen in Louisville over the last 4 or 5 years, and we all know the things that have happened, and we're still dealing with some of that. When the Breonna Taylor thing hit, I called Mark and I said, get on the air, open the phones, let people talk. Because that's what LOU did. LOU, was playing James Brown and the Temptations and all these songs in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then OJ's and whatever in the 70s. But when something happened, I mean, she has pictures of her dad, Dr. Summers, marching with Martin Luther King, right? So the historical part of LOU is community. It's the most important part. Frankly, if we, like, we're an entertainment company. We play artists like Michael Jackson and Usher and Beyonce and Toni Braxton, all that stuff. But what we really do, besides entertain, is inform. We still run news. There's a national news network called the Black Information News Network. We air that every hour, right? Most stations of our kind don't do that. Why does anybody want to hear news? Well, I mean, this is a different world. Even the younger people, it's a different world. And so we're trying to present the station as being a community station. When something happens, we're the voice. And God bless our competitors and what they do it well. I wouldn't say a bad thing about them. I used to work for some of those stations and some of those people. But what we're doing is different. We are serving the Black community, number one. That was to answer your question directly, what is my focus on what we're doing? We serve the Black community. We're not Black owned, obviously, okay? But I'm proud to say that we do have Steve Murphy sitting here as my vice president and general manager. I'm pretty sure he's the only African-American media manager in Louisville. Maybe in Kentucky, I don't know. But for sure in Louisville. We're trying to keep it operated, focused, and driven towards the Black community. That's what we're trying to do. And I'd never want to change that because it's what it's always been. It's always been, to use an old term, LOU was always true to his game, and that's what we're still trying to do. Again, another long answer, sorry.
No, thank you.
You're talking to a radio guy, so
No, it's awesome. And I do want to give an additional shout out to Steve, because when I first called and I was just asking, is WLOU still Black owned? And he said, they're not, but listen. And he explained many of the things that you explained. And I think it just really does encompass how WLOU is still the soul of Louisville. Yep. So now we are going to transition to the Q&A section. And I was thinking about the happy line. So you were just mentioning
the
people can call in and share some
that.
things. So this is going to be our version of the happy line, where people can come up.
You're going to explain to them what that means?
I will let one of you, because
You want me to do it?
Know what I know.
So back in the day, and I guess it was a guy named Little David Anderson that was on there. No, who was it? Whoever the morning person was at the time.
Look, hold on. John Tucker, you still in the house? Who did the happy line? Who did the happy? You can't remember this.
So
it wasn't.
What they would do is they would open the phone lines live on the air, and you would call, and you would yell "Happy," and it was to get you started and your morning started. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest things LOU ever did. Actually, it's one of the things people remember the most from back then. So that's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, because hearing you all explain and seeing your smiles is very different from me regurgitating what I saw on the read on the internet. So thank you for it. Both of y'all lit up. So.
I have to say something about the happy line. The reason why I reached out to John Tucker, who is a childhood friend of mine, is because he has the funniest story about the happy line. It was a huge deal. It was such a huge deal to him that he cut school to be on the happy line. He stayed on the radio, on the phone all day, and he got through.
Yeah.
Knowing that when his mother got home, he said, John, how was school today? And he's like, well, school was wonderful. And she said, yeah, it may have been, but I heard you on the happy line.
That's pretty bad.
John tells that story all the time. So since he was here, I thought he might remember. It'll come to me who. That's why I had to tell the story, John, because that's why I reached out to John.
Michael Henderson.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Okay, good deal. Thanks.
We should bring it back, actually.
So if you have a question, you can either come up to the mic, you can stand up and project your voice. You don't have to scream happy at the beginning, but you're more than welcome to.
But feel free to if you'd like.
At 81 years old, I'm probably the only person in here who remembers the days you're talking about. I remember in 1954 when the Supreme Court decision was made for the desegregation of schools, and it may have even been on WLOU that I heard that.
Yeah.
I remember many of the artists who appeared on WLOU, and I remember with a lot of fondness how close we were to the people who were a part of that station. I can reflect back on all of those people who made such a big impression. I grew up in Smoketown. Some of you may know what Smoketown is today, on Jackson Street near Breckenridge. I remember Toby Howard, the land of the midnight sun. I remember several other of the artists who appeared on that station. And they made a big impression on those of us who were around in those days. And I just wanted to be a witness to what WLOU meant to us.
Amen.
In the days of AM radio, that was even before a lot of the FM came into being. And I want you to know that they left a legacy that we need to honor today. We need to remember the sacrifices that people made. I can even remember one time when, well, he didn't like that nickname, but some people called him Jig Summers. Jig Summers was out on location, and he was talking through a phone booth on a corner, but he was giving an on-the-scene report of an incident that was happening in our community. Toby Howard, Jockey Jack, a lot of those artists who appeared in that time. So I hope that those of you who were not around to be a part of those days can at least listen to a witness to know that WLOU meant a lot in those days. They gave witness to a lot of what occurred in those days. They left an impression on those of us who, and I'm a witness that at 81 years old, I can remember very well what WLOU meant to us. And I thank his progeny for what you have contributed, what the family has contributed to those of us who have followed on. And I hope that people coming on today will pick up on, we're in Joe's Palm Room, for goodness sakes. There were so many institutions that were representative of what we were in those days. So please honor the memory of the people who contributed to WLOU, who contributed to Joe's Palm Room and to others. I'm not going to take up more time today. I could talk for a long time because I lived through a lot of this. But just know that that was a very, very significant time, and the heritage is really great. So with that, let me shut up and get out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Well said, thank you.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is LaVon Carter, and I represent the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Thank you so much for all y'all do. I had an opportunity to meet you before. I really appreciate you. I'm going to be sending a follow-up email to Neil because we're going to need some radio promo for our Out of the Darkness walk on November the 2nd at Waterfront Park. But my question is, could you please explain some of the adverse situations that you had to persevere through and the mentality or mental attitude that you had to have to get through it to be in this space? Because there's a lot of young people in here and life is very difficult. And you either in something, just got out of something, about to enter something, but unfortunately, a lot of our youth don't have as much hope or as much drive as they once had before, for whatever the reasons are. So just to kind of give some insight on the mentality you have to have, because you do have to have some sort of grit in order to get to break through to that next level, to achieve your goals and dreams and, ultimately reach your ultimate destiny. So.
Good question. You want to?
I was going to say, Ms. Summers, if you want to give a little bit about your father and your life.
He's gonna make me tell it, ain't he? Perseverance is an understatement when it came to Summers. When Summers died, and I'm saying this for a reason, he had about 365 suit coats that meant a whole lot to him. But the reason why those soup coats meant a lot to him, because Summers' first soup coat that he ever received in his life is because he walked to Presbyterian Church out in Smoketown every single Sunday. He did not miss a Sunday. He got his first suit coat from the Presbyterian Church and his first pair of shoes from Presbyterian Church. Now, again, I didn't go real in detail about, but Summers' beginnings, not only was Summers' mother left him in the hospital with tuberculosis, his father didn't claim him because Summers was a dark-skinned man. His father was a light-skinned man. He never claimed Summers until Summers became an adult and well-known. About time Summers and his father got into a relationship, you're making me tell it, Summers' father was killed in a bar. So I'm telling you all this. That's the reason why I'm telling the making of a difference maker. It's that part of the story nobody knows. He was a man of light. He was a man of integrity. He was a man of dreams. But he was most of all a man with perseverance and a man that wanted us all to make it, not just him. He ain't talking about somebody to grab one and would grab them all. I'm not saying that because he's my father. I'm saying that because it's the truth. Summer visit the hospital every Sunday until he passed, because he was a pastor. We haven't gotten to that. He was an AME minister as well for 20 years. So perseverance is really could be Summer's middle name, from where he began to become an owner of a radio station. And that's the reason why I felt led to tell this book, to leave that for young people to know it's all possible. It's all possible. Dream big, put some action about it, and stay around the right people. People can help you keep the connections, and stay around people who are going somewhere. And with those, there is a recipe of life, but that's it. Believe in God, that's number one. I'm a faith, Summer was too, he was a minister. But if you just put those recipes of life together, stay with it. Hope is, if you believe in God, hope is never lost, because that's what Jesus is. It's about hope. So, have a foundation of Christ. If you don't, and get connected, if you want to do that, you can. But stay hopeful. Always stay hopeful. Never, never, never give up.
Thank you, Sherryll.
Thank you.
I would add one little thing to that. Very similar. My father grew up in poverty. And the reason I'm in broadcasting today is because he grew up in Clarksville, Indiana, and he found out that New Albany High School had a radio station in 1949. It's the oldest high school radio station in the world. He went to school there. He gave a fake address so he could go to school in New Albany, walk from Clarksville to New Albany, go to high school, so he could work at a radio station in high school. That one seed that was planted by my father umpteen million years ago is the reason I'm sitting here.
Amen.
The reason she's sitting here. And ultimately, as she
The reason
said,
we're all sitting here.
we're all sitting here. All good things come from God, the Bible says. So those things come together mentally. Those are the things you have to tell yourself every day. Don't listen to all the voices in your head. We all have them. Tell those voices who you are, where you're going, and who you're going to be.
Hello, my name is Anaya Subley. I go to Central High School. I'm 16. So I was basically wondering, for someone whose future plan is to own a business like radio or just a business in general, what's a piece of evidence that can help with going in the right direction and not giving up on your goals?
Go ahead.
Read the last part to me again. I'm sorry.
What's a good piece of advice for someone that's looking to go in the business field and to not give up on their goals?
Well, education's always a great start. But there's an old saying, education not used is entertainment only. So if you're going to learn about something, do it. One thing, I didn't personally, I'll disclose this, I didn't go to college myself. I got brought up in the radio business when I was 18. I started when I was 15 on the radio while I was in high school. And I got a job offer to go to a big market, and I chased that. And I don't regret it, but I do regret not going to college. So I would say, get your education, but make sure it's something you in your heart want to do. I don't subscribe that everybody can do everything. Like, you don't want me to be a brain surgeon. You're going to die probably if I do that. But I had a destiny and the talent and ability of what I did. I think we need to do a better job helping you develop and understand what they want to do. I think we've dropped the ball a little bit as society is helping you say, okay, what is it you're really good at? What are your talents and abilities? Talent is defined as God-given, and education helps you learn about those things. So I think you have to focus on to answer your question, what it is you really want to do? What's your heart say? It's an old saying, and I'll say it. They say, if you do what you love, you never worked a day in your life. And it's actually true. And I think we're both those two people. So hopefully that answers your question. You're welcome.
LIBA appreciates the West Louisville Trailblazers, presenting sponsor, Park Community Credit Union, who make these videos possible.
Hi everyone, I'm Dathan, like Nathan with the D at the beginning. I am one of the managers of our awesome team at Park Community Credit Union. Lisa's also here. We're both in the West End. She's at West Jefferson in the Molo Village, and I'm at the new Goodwill Center, 28th and Broadway. Park Community Credit Union, yes, we do have a new logo. Service is still the same and even better. We want to be a world where hope, opportunity, and belonging unites us all. And so it's wonderful to be able to celebrate great things that are happening in this community and to be a part of it as well. And we offer financial services for all.
AMP is a organization that stands for Adventurous Minds Produce Extraordinary Dreams, and we're focused on supporting Black and brown families in underserved and underrepresented communities. Park Community Credit Union has impacted AMP in a major way. With our partnership with Park, we are able to build this Technology Workforce Development Training Center that will impact lives all throughout West Louisville and other underserved communities, but not just West Louisville, but all of Louisville.
We also would like to acknowledge Business First for their additional support.
LIBA is all about buying local and supporting independent businesses. We are one of the largest independent business alliances in the country with over 850 members. And many people know us from our Buy Local fairs and our Keep Louisville Weird message. So we spread the word about why buying local is important, and one of the big reasons is more dollars stay circulating in the local community. In fact, we did a study that shows for every $100 that you spend, when you spend it at a local, 55 will remain recirculating, but when you spend that at a national chain, only like 14. And when it's at a mega online retailer, close to 0. So when you buy from independent businesses, you're really supporting your community and keeping those dollars recirculating. So LIBA is not only an education organization, we're also a membership organization. We are all about supporting those local independent businesses where we want you to shift your dollars towards. We not only educate the public, but we also act as a voice for those businesses. When 850 businesses come together, that's a strong voice for the media, for the government, and we want to be sure that all of our members' voices are heard. So we want to hit our members' bottom line, and the way that we do that is we drive traffic directly to our members, and we do that through things like our Buy Local fairs, our B2B event, the Local Business Expo, things like our printed Buy Local guide, our online business directory, and all of our social media is out there promoting our businesses. We just want to get the word out to the public about who our local businesses are and how they can find them. So to find out all about LIBA, go to keeplouisvilleweird.com. You can find out all the information about why buying local is important, including the study that we did about how our dollars recirculate more when you buy local. You can also find out about becoming a business member. That's at keeplouisvilleweird.com, or you can call us at 502-473-4687.